perfect. Well, I appreciate your time. I'm always honored when people want to spend their time hearing me talk about a topic. Time's your most valuable resource because you certainly can't get any more of it. But thank you for spending a little bit of time with me. So I'm going to talk about mental health and culture. And when I first was approached to talk about this, I thought, wow, okay, that's kind of strange. And then I thought about it a little more and I'm like, no, actually, that's perfectly aligned when you really think about it, especially if you're a startup or the leader of an organization. You know, your mental health will actually drive a lot of the organization. And I say make your company your dream. I always believe in dreaming big and dreaming for what you want. So first of all, what is mental health? And I'm going to break a couple rules when I tell people to do presentations. I don't like long lists, but I thought some of these definitions were good, and especially if you're a startup or the leader of an organization. You know, your mental health will actually drive a lot of the organization. And I say make your company your dream. I always believe in dreaming big and dreaming for what you want. So first of all, what is mental health? And I'm going to break a couple rules when I tell people to do presentations. I don't like long lists, but I thought some of these definitions were good, and especially if you're going to send the deck out, which I thought you would. So I wanted to keep a few of these. Mental health is composed of our emotional, psychological, and social well-being. It affects how we think, feel, and act, and determines how we handle stress, relate to others, and make healthy choices, which is a definition from the Center for Disease Control. You know, it composes our personality most of all, and I think outwardly that's what people see the most of. And then there's also how you may react to something. And how you handle stress. Mental health drives culture. And if you look at an organization, every organization has a culture, good or bad, they do have a culture. Culture is really how things get done around the workplace, and how includes both the formal systems and the informal behavior. Now, you may write down values that drive your culture, but you'll find that informal behaviors will start to sneak in. And it's something, especially as a leader, that I think you really need to look out for and make sure you get the culture that you want. One of the things I believe in very much is knowing yourself. As Aristotle said, knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom. There's numerous personality tests out there that you can take, and they'll have their pluses and all have their minuses. But there's a Colby disc, Myers-Briggs, and there's a company called Profiles, and they have a test, Profiles XT. Now you need to find an implementer to give you that test, and the other ones are free. I believe the Profiles XT now, I think, may cost $200, but it's certainly money well spent. All these tests will help you discover your strengths, weaknesses, and passions. Harvard Business School listed out the top traits of an entrepreneur. So curiosity and structured experimentation, adaptability, I think all go together. Entrepreneurs especially are just by nature curious people. They start their companies because they've seen a problem and they want to solve it. Now, the structured experimentation and adaptability comes in as they're trying to, get to that first minimum viable product. They may go through several different iterations and the company they end up with may solve a totally different problem than what they started out with. Now, you certainly need to be decisive. You have to make a lot of decisions, especially when you're starting up a company. It all rests on your shoulders. And you need to be very good at team building. The team that you put together, especially originally, but even throughout the whole life of the company, will make or break you. You have to tolerate risk because there is a lot of risk in starting a new business. Be comfortable with failure. I think one of my favorites is tenacity. You have to be willing to try and try again. Now, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different outcome. But if you fail in one area, then look at it, learn from it, and go on. And of course, you need to be innovative, and actually, very important is a long-term focus. Create fuel. This is something, excuse me, I really believe in, and I've seen multiple times how it's worked together. It says the most successful businesses have two types of partners at the top: the visionary and the integrator. And there's a book by Gino Wickman called Rocket Fuel, and there's actually a test you can take at the end of it to see if you're a visionary or integrator. If you look at Apple Computer, Steve Jobs really gets the credit for it, but that's right, Steve Wozniak, really put everything together to make the company what it was. Jobs would bounce from idea to idea to idea, and Wozniak would have to say, okay, let's actually get something made and try it in the market and see how it goes. I think it's very important to paint your future and to plan to make it happen. So it's very important for a company to have a mission. What are you trying to do? Be the number one consulting firm in IT marketing. Vision. Where do you want to go in the future? And values. And I think values is extremely important. And values are not just written down in a suggestion. If you break the values of the company, you should be terminated. It's not something that you should tolerate as a business owner. You are the culture. It's interesting, but we talk a lot about living in the fishbowl. So people look to you for the real culture of the company. And it's interesting, your mood sets the tone for the day. So how you start out in the morning, people will actually notice and then have an idea. It's like, oh, today is going to be a good day, or today's not going to be such a good day. So really controlling your emotions and how you react to things, and especially how you handle stress, will really help you have the proper mood when you come in for the day. Avoid the emotional roller coaster. When you're starting a business or a leader of a business or even leader of a team, it has its ups and downs. Some of the downs, anxiety, depression, fear. But if you look at things in the positive, optimism, laughter, relief, excitement, hope, and happy, your outlook will totally change. Not that you won't have a lot of challenges that you have to face, but if you look at them from a very positive side, you won't be on the emotional roller coaster, and you'll be able to actually perform a lot better. uh, disconnect. Tyga and I were just actually just talking about this. He's doing CrossFit right up until he messed up his shoulder. And I like to work out at the gym, and also I've been taking Krav Maga for several years, and have been a race car driver for 30 some years, 34 years. I tell you what, when people are throwing punches at you, or you're driving a car on a track like at Circuit of the Americas, you are totally disconnected from work. I mean, you can't think about it at all. And actually, just working out, the endorphins that are created will really help you get through the stress of the day and give you a better positive mental attitude. I think it's really important to know or to realize that you are not your business. And I see something I need to get rid of there. Sorry. Um, don't let your business define you. You know, if your business fails, it does not mean you're a failure. Brush yourself off and start again. Too many people have their identity totally tied to their business, and it mentally is just not healthy, because businesses will always have ups and downs. And somebody that has a startup may have to start again and start again. I like John Maxwell's quote: fail early, fail often, but always fail forward. And actually, he's got a great book out called Fail Forward. And it's learning from the mistakes that you've made and what happened that did not work, and then take those lessons forward and learn from them and don't repeat them. Tenacity. Tenacity means not giving up easy and having an inner drive to achieve something you really want. You can develop tenacity by setting clear goals, write them down and share them with your team, developing a vision for your company. You know, that's when we talk about mission, vision, and values, those need to be communicated to everyone. The companies I've run, the first day that the employee shows up, that's part of the packet that they receive. Learn from your mistakes. You're going to make a lot of mistakes. Learn from them and grow from them. You know, becoming a leader in your life and of others. If you can't lead in your own life, how can you be expected to lead your team? And also, never allow the fear of failure to control you. You will fail. There will be times when what you do just doesn't work out, but don't be afraid of it, as long as you can learn from it and pick yourself up and go again. I like Louis Pasteur. Let me tell you the secret that has led me to my goal. My strength lies solely in my tenacity. Also, tenacity means never get up or quit on your dream. Find the benefits in adversity. You will go through a lot of adversity. It's just part of the natural part of building a business. Reject mediocrity. Expect only the best and make sure your team knows that. There's no reason that you should expect anything less than somebody's best effort. And as long as your team knows that and sees that you do that yourself, they'll follow along. And I like this: aim high and aim really high. You know, if you aim high and don't quite make it, you've probably gone a lot farther than if you would have set out a target to aim lower. I know when I was doing business planning for the first business I grew, we went from $1 million to 350 million in about 12 years. We planned everything and planned very, very high targets, and actually met them. I don't think we ever missed one. A reporter asked Edison once, how do you feel about failing 1,000 times to make a light bulb? And his reply, I love, I didn't fail 1,000 times. The light bulb was an invention with 1,000 steps. How would he have felt if he actually tied his self-worth to the failures that he made when trying to make the light bulb? And talk about a great example of tenacity. He went through 1,000 or 999 ideas that did not work before he got to one that finally did. It's very true. No one cares how much you know until they know how much you care. Build a team that will follow you into battle. People want to get to know you and really know that you care for them and are there for them. One thing I like to do, celebrate every success that you get a chance to. I coach some race car drivers, and one of the things I work with them to do is to get the first win. Because once people win the first time, the next times actually come easier because they realize that they can win. With your team at work, the successes or the milestones that you hit that is part of your success, celebrate it. Once they realize they're on a winning team, it really motivates them a lot more to work for the vision of the company. I always say never waste a lunch. If you're not going to lunch with a client, take one of your employees to lunch and really get to know them. It's amazing how much they'll appreciate it, especially after you've grown your company a while and you've got younger employees coming in. Birthday cards and thank you notes. At the beginning of every month, I would fill out my assigned birthday cards for that month and then have them sent out a few days before their actual birthday. And one of the things that I did that really meant a lot to people is I would send out handwritten thank you notes. So I would ask people's managers, I said, hey, find somebody who's really gone out of their way and done something, wonderful, put in extra time, whatever it is, and I'll write them a thank you note. Excuse me. Now, the birthday cards and thank you notes, send those to their house. Don't give them to them at work, and don't do an email. It's amazing how much it means to them when they get a thank you note at their house that they can actually show their family. I like company outings, and one of my favorite ones every year was when we had our interns in the summer cook hamburgers and hot dogs for the whole office. And anybody that knows me, every place I work, we wear Hawaiian shirts on Friday. I really believe in practicing spirituality. It's a great way to really clear your mind and get you from thinking about the day. So first thing in the morning, get up, pray or meditate, journal, spend some time writing about just whatever ideas come to your mind, but not about work. And then believe in something larger than yourself. There are so many things out there that, are larger than you that you don't know how you may be affecting. And I love a verse in the Bible, Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper and not bring harm, plans to give you hope and a future. That's been my mantra for several years. Unfortunately, I lost 2 children and my parents in a business in a 5-year period. And that was the verse that I had written on my mirror So I would see it first thing in the morning, had it written in my office. Uh, so I know that, you know, there is hope uh, for a much better future. Developing yourself and your team. One thing is really important uh, as a business leader is find out when you do your best work, morning or afternoon. Do the most important work when you're at the best, and then save the other time for the mundane tasks, whatever that is. I call it the administrivia of running a company. You know, having to go through whether it's invoices, answering most of your emails. Do that when you're certainly not at your best. And I think the 7 most important words are, I don't know, what do you think? A lot of people will come to you with problems and you're expected to solve them. So you'll tell them what to do. They're like, oh, great. And they'll go do it. If it doesn't work, it's your fault because they did not come up with the idea. So I ask them, what do you think? And I say, come back to me when you have 3 solutions and we'll talk about them and decide which is the best one. Now, what I found is usually they don't come back because they'll sit there and think about it and find out a way to solve it on their own. Or if they do come back with their 3 solutions, oftentimes we'll find a different answer just by talking through the problem. This is a tough one for everybody. Disconnect from your electronics. Certainly is very difficult at first. Software developers put in features that release dopamine. So when you hear the sound of a text or a new email, it actually arouses your senses and it makes you want to look at it. Here's a statistic I couldn't believe, but it's backed up by enough research that the average office worker spends 3.5 hours reading email and 2.5 hours checking their phone. That's 6 hours. And if you work an 8 or 9 hour day, look at how much time you actually have to apply to work. And then how focused are you going to be when you're checking your email or your phone constantly? One of the things that really bothers me is never check your email or phone when you're talking to somebody. In fact, I will always move my chair out away from my desk or move to another desk or a table in my office and sit there and talk to them. So there's not the temptation to have that distraction when you're sitting there at the desk. And also, don't sit there waiting for emails to come in. Check your email first thing in the morning, after lunch, before leaving. Those are really the only times you need to. If something so important that somebody needs an immediate answer, they'll likely call you if you don't answer your email. Stephen Covey, I love. He had the 12 things people do differently, and I think it's great advice for everybody. First of all, express gratitude. The people that work for you put their effort out, and thank them for that. Cultivate optimism. We talked a little bit about that earlier, but always have an optimistic outlook for the future. Avoid overthinking and social comparison. I know that's extremely hard to do, especially the social comparison in the world today. If only we were as good as what our Facebook says or our Instagram account, it'd be a totally different place. Practice acts of kindness. I believe, random acts of kindness done for no reason, it can really change a person's day and change your own day. Nurture social relationships. getting out and being around people is one of the best ways to really get your mind off of what you're doing, relax, and you really need those social interactions with people. Learn to forgive, increase flow experiences. That's when you're 100% focused on what you're doing. You're totally in your area of strength, and time seems to go by, quickly. Uh, I find it interesting that in driving my race car, uh, when you're in the groove, it's phenomenal. I mean, really, everything's just happening almost automatically. Savor life's joys. Commit to your goals, and you know our family had mission, vision, and values, and we had goals for our lives. We sit down with the kids, write them out. Or if your kids are gone, I know a lot of couples will spend a weekend together and really talk about the goals. And as I've said before, practice spirituality and take care of your body. Some final thoughts. Your mental and physical health is your most important asset. You know, it's you have to take care of yourself before you can take care of a company. Um, you set the tone for everything that happens in your company. Your team should come first. Practice servant leadership. Um, Ask what you can do for them as opposed to what they need to do for you. And study, study, study. There's a statistic that I believe it's 43% of all college graduates do not read a book after they graduate college. I've got, I don't know, 300 books on my shelves that I've gone through over the past 30 years. I read a lot of magazines. I love Harvard Business Review. I love The Economist. Take time and really work on perfecting your skills as a business person and also just yourself as a person. Some reference material, and you can look up 10 characteristics of successful entrepreneurs. That's in Harvard Business Review. Rocket Fuel, Inspiration in Life, Failing Forward, and I really like EOS, which is the Entrepreneurial Operating System, which is by Gino Wickman. And also your painted picture. And that's really what you ultimately want your company to look like. And you should paint it vividly, because when you're hiring people, they are coming in because of the vision you have, especially when it's a brand new company. And you need to be excited about your vision, but it needs to even, probably more importantly, excite other people so that they're willing to take the risk for the opportunity that you're giving them. Anyway, I want to thank you for your time. And I love this. I saw it in an office lobby. When the phone was tied with the wire, humans were free. I think that's amazing how true that is. And I guess we'll open this up to any questions.
I'll start with the question. John, thank you. Great presentation, and I think we want to take those reading materials and throw it onto our platform under different sections of our reading. But to me, I think that social media might be the sort of the death of mental health of everyone. My kids are a little older, 30 and 27, so they are less hooked on it. But I see, young people with their hand on their phone every second and looking for likes and dancing on TikTok half naked. It seemed to have sort of destroyed like people just, this is their whole life, like how many likes they could get and who's following them and things
Yeah.
like that. And there's no self-esteem anymore. Just, it's, what do you think of all this?
Oh, I agree 100%. I looked at the way my kids were growing up, and I've gotten remarried and have a couple teenagers. Actually, one turned 20, and they're constantly on their phone. You know, hey, what's going on Instagram? What's going on TikTok? And you're right. They tie literally their self-worth to, how many likes they get. They'll post something and immediately they're looking to see how many people have looked at it. That's one thing. Every Monday night's family dinner night. And so the younger kids and their significant others come to dinner. And if anybody pulls out a phone, they pretty much know I'm going to smash it. So we make them take a break at least for 2 hours while we eat dinner and then play a card game.
Interesting. I see people starting when they go out to dinner with friends and stuff. Some people play a game. Everyone has to take their phone and stick it in the middle of the table. And the first person to grab the phone to look for something is the person that's paying the check.
I like that.
So it's okay. Like if you got an infant at home, that's one thing. But when you got, sort of, teenagers and going, there's no emergency that's happening. And you'll see them ring through 2 or 3 times and then you'll know or something. But like maybe that's
Yeah.
the answer. I think it's the scourge of they're getting their information there. They're just everything there. It's not a good thing. And the information pipeline is curated by, Google, Apple, Microsoft, maybe a couple others, and that's it. And that can't be good.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, there's a great documentary, and I wish I could remember the name of it now off the top of my head, talking to several of the tech giants, and they don't let their kids use it. So it's certainly telling in that case.
So John, you did mention, a state to be in is that flow state, where you can pretty much you're at, peak optimality when you're working. And how do you get in that flow state? I'm just curious how others get in that flow state.
Well, it's really when you do the testing and find out what your strengths are, and when you're getting to spend your time in what your top strengths are, that's when you're in the flow. One of the things I've always done is schedule 2 to 4 hours a week of private work time where I cannot be interrupted by anybody, and I have the chance to work on my business and not in my business. Typically I'll go, grab a Starbucks right around the corner. But yeah, that's where a lot of times where I find myself in my flow state, or even working, on the business in areas that I absolutely love. When you're playing to your strengths, the time goes quickly. I'm sure it's like you at CrossFit. You're enjoying it. It's something you want to do. And so, time really goes by pretty quick.
Yeah, definitely. I've noticed it in CrossFit and in martial arts.
Yeah.
Pretty much the more you think, even in public speaking, like the more you think, the worse you're going to sound. Once you get in that flow state, as long as you know what you're doing, I think that, yeah.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You look at some of the top public speakers, they're phenomenal. Probably the best speaker I heard, a couple of them actually. I went to a meeting that GE used to have when they would come around to the big cities in the morning. The CEO would meet with the investment bankers. In the afternoon, they'd meet with top customers. And Jeff Immelt was absolutely the best speaker I've probably ever heard. And I was asking one of his vice presidents later about it, and they said, oh yeah, they spend a lot of time actually grooming them because, he could say something, mistakenly when talking to an investment banker, and, cause their stock to, drop. But yeah, you could tell, he was totally in the flow. I mean, he was in, his area of strength without a doubt. Okay. Does anybody else have anything?
I will. Okay, Bennett. Please.
Yeah, I could go real quick. I definitely want to say thank you. Great presentation, and appreciate you sharing stuff about family and personal and business endeavors and all that. So bravo and kudos. I guess one question. I joined Gildre kind of for myself on my own mission, but this presentation kind of speaks to my day job life, and Gildre might be able to relate to this too. But we don't have an office. We turned our off for my day job. The company I'm at, it's a managed service provider, outsourced IT support. And we have no office. So we live in Slack, email, meetings. You got to ping someone anytime you want to talk to them. There's not a lot of water cooler time. And like, I'm definitely trying just personally to improve the culture for my own enjoyment's sake. Like I started a fantasy football group and just trying to talk about, I made a health and wellness channel, kind of like led that. And so I don't know how you have seen remote groups try and create culture or improve it. They do a once a month, like offsite, like they're going race car driving next week, and they did like a boat ride in the summer. And so there's some of that there, but even just, I think my biggest maybe complaint is just like the day-to-day communication and getting to ping people and talk with them without it having to be like a hassle, and just having a little bit more free time. And the funny one you mentioned about just kind of a side tangent of, there's no emergencies. Like, yeah, we're on call IT support, so there's outages and like people have to respond. But to be clear, there's not a lot of outages. Like, people have this response like, oh, you're pinging me and there's got to be some issues. Like, no, I just want to talk for 10 minutes. Yeah. Any thoughts you have on that remote work or collaboration piece? Yeah.
Remote work is so difficult, and some friends of mine, actually one of them in the software industry, they went totally remote over COVID, and some other companies that my friends have. And you need personal interaction. And it's interesting. I'm on the board of Junior Achievement here in Houston, and we have the three big school school districts. Their superintendents are on the board, and one of them was talking about when COVID was over and the kids came back, that the teachers were, really surprised, and they actually thought that they had a bunch of special needs children. And then they realized that they had lost 2 years of social skills development.
Yeah.
And just that day-to-day interaction and not having that, I mean, that's tough to work around. Getting people together like you are, that's great. And, even having a, Monday morning, real quick, hey, everybody hop on. We'll go around the room, see what everybody's got going on. If they need help with anything, bring it up, and then, let's tackle the week.
Yeah. I like it.
I got something off of what Michael was saying is, I've been pretty good with staying away from Twitter and TikTok and Instagram and all that. But like, when I try to get news or like LinkedIn, like business news, sometimes I think it affects my mental, like, feels like I'm getting brainwashed. Like, but how do I stop? How do I keep up to date with business, like, and news, without using the internet? Because like internet news, it seems like they're brainwashing you. And like, when you keep up with the business on LinkedIn, like, all the different people's comments, I can stay away from everything, but then I feel disconnected. And I don't know how to get news anymore without being, if I had like a partner like a couple of business friends where they could tell me the news, that would work.
Yeah.
I mean, then I could totally stay away from everything. But like, I feel disconnected sometimes. And when I go on MSN to get news or LinkedIn, it messes with my mental sometimes.
You know, good news doesn't bring as much of an audience as bad news, and you hate to say that.
Well, it's not necessarily bad news, but it's like tailored towards me. Like news that they give you on MSN or on LinkedIn, it seems like they listen to your phone and they're like giving you news that's like related to your life, and it's freaky.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's no doubt about it. It's amazing. Once news became entertainment and was 24 hours a day, it totally changed. Growing up, you had a half hour of local news and a half hour of evening news. And, they had to compress it in a short amount of time. So they were very, quick and succinct about it. And, you really couldn't tell, what political affiliation they had. Now it's all political for the most part.
Well, didn't Fox News pay that big, like $900 million fine? So it's kind of, but I find that government-backed news sources like the BBC or NHK, I think those are probably the most non-biased, non-partisan news sources.
It's surprising. I like Sky News and Al Jazeera. They actually give really good news. And I like Sky News Australia because they spend a lot of time making fun of Americans. and looking at it from the outside, I'm like, oh, that's what we look like to the rest of the world.
I have dropped in the chat something. I was just at a sort of a pool party Sunday. It was a nice day, and she said to me she signed up for Nice News, and it's an email of the nice stories of the day, and they're all good, feel-good things. And I think if you read those things and you watch those things, you'll feel better. And I have a friend, my kids grew up together. He was in the Mommy and Me class when we first had our first child. Eric was 31. And about 6 months ago, I said, Nathan, listen, I said, I'm done talking to you. I know you're 31 years, but every time I get done with you, I feel bad after I'm done. You're telling me things that I just don't want to hear, like about me or whatever, like picking on me and stuff. I said, you might be right, but I just don't want to hear it every second from you. So I basically said to him, I'm not going to talk to you again. I said, good luck. I invested in this company. I said, good luck with that. I hope it comes out well. But I said, I'm done. I don't feel good every time I'm speaking to you. And I try and stay away from news services, things that are aggressive and pitting people against each other. And I've been reading this Nice News, and I sort of feel good. And on Instagram, I follow lots of animal channels and nature channels and things like that, and I feel better about it. So thank you for your time, John.